He'd have diabetic seizures so badly with all that sugar and stuff that, I mean, he would just really struggle.
Unless he wasn't getting high on his own supply.
Right.
Welcome. You're listening to Paleo Cheese Podcast, Episode 7, Part 1, Painting, Local Haunts, and the Amityville Phenomenon.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. I am Chad Lutsky.
And I'm Jeremiah Bannister.
And you're listening to the 7th episode of Paleo Cheese Podcast, the podcast that tosses film onto the cheese lounge to discuss, psychoanalyze, and sometimes point and laugh at. And this is the 7th episode. Among many other things, we're going to be discussing David Lynch's Blue Velvet.
Yeah. This is going to be a lot of fun, dude. I know it's only been, 7 episodes, right? So our first episode, we began with the David Lynch film, Wild at Heart, and people should go back and check that out as soon as they're done listening to this. And it's only been 7, we still have other big directors that we haven't seen anything from, but we wanted to tackle this. This is a really good one. I think that it's the timing of it's good. Plus the fact that I'd never seen this before.
We will be talking spoilers. So hopefully you've seen the movie by now. So before we get into that, what have you been doing, Jeremiah? Have you been doing anything interesting? Reading, watching stuff?
Dude, yeah. Painting? No painting. Although I gotta be honest, man, I kind of want to get into it. I know that you have kind of this love-hate relationship with the craft. Okay. So, because you're a painter. In fact, you've got some cool videos. People should go and check those things out. He has a YouTube channel that, I don't know, when's the last time you posted a YouTube video, like on your channel?
Oh man.
It's been a hot minute.
The last time that we did a movie together, I don't know. It's been a while. I mean, I do some stuff for like my Patreon page and things like that, but I have a couple different YouTube channels. I normally don't share some of that other stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you just outed it, dude. You just outed that those videos were there. Yeah. Big trouble, man. So no, but but you're a painter, and you have these amazing paintings. People can see your pictures online, and people can see even videos of the process and all that. But I've only done a couple paintings in my life, and one of them's kind of a cute painting, right? I like it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's amazing, but it's pretty good, and I really haven't dedicated much time to learning how to do that, but it's something that I've always wanted to do. And my kids love painting a lot. They paint all the time. And my daughter, she made this really cool video where she's painting and making even different texture with the paint and putting glitter in it and making it kind of chunky and stuff. It's pretty cool the way she did it. And I helped her edit. And I thought, man, I'd really like to learn how to paint. But no, I have not been painting. One thing I did is I watched this movie that I'm hoping that we'll eventually review, but it's Mandy, the one with Nicolas Cage in it. Yeah, that was completely nuts, dude. That was a real trip. And I really hope that one day down the road, right, not too soon, but sometime down the road, we'll be able to review that. It's an interesting film. I watched that. I tried watching this one. It was somebody's like, hey man, it's a cult classic. It's called Liquid Sky. No, man, that is not. I think I turned it off like really quick in a hot second. Like, I'm like, no, I can't do this. It's just too bizarre, dude. It's kind of, and yes, it has a cult following and whatever, but it's a hypersexual, like a lot, like, and in the movie we're going to talk about tonight has a lot of strangeness to do with sexuality and stuff in there. I mean, so it's not as if I'm averse to watching things like that and seeing it and analyzing it and talking about it. But that, maybe somebody watching this could send me an email at paleocheese@gmail.com and say, oh, I think you're wrong about Liquid Sky. Do your best. I dare you. Maybe you'll convince me to give it a second try, or at least a second try to get past the first 10 minutes or so. But, watch that. And then I had some friends of mine reach out to me, talking to me about movie reviews. And one of them, she brought up more family oriented, not stuff necessarily for paleo cheese, but things like Mary Poppins And movies, yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking, like, I can just imagine pitching that to Chad, saying, "Hey, Chad, I think that this week we should do Mary Poppins." but I would do it. I would do it by myself. I would do that. And yeah, Mary Poppins, and what was the other one? Now and Then, which I've never seen, but I thought I'd watch it now and then. I'd roll with that. But I've never seen it before. I saw the preview and I said, man, I can imagine that being a tearjerker, but it's kind of a chick flick. And by kind of, I mean like big time. It's almost like saying you would commit to watching The Babysitter's Club or something. It's not normally a very manly thing. You're not going to have a lot of dudes go, oh yeah, that was a great movie, dude. I went and watched it with the boys. You're not going to get that, but it looks like a movie. I'm in touch with that side of myself. I'm okay watching that. I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been watching a lot of previews and things, trying to kind of get an idea for stuff that I would like to pitch to be reviewed here, stuff that I'd like to maybe review myself, talking to people and getting ideas from them on what they would like to see. So, but not as much. Oh, and one more thing, I've got to say this, dude. We've been watching different seasons. We actually, in my family, we went through Twin Peaks. So we watched the entirety of that, except for the movie, which is really bumming me out big time. I still haven't seen the movie yet. It's the last thing I've got to see. But we just started watching Lost, and I'm pretty pumped up about that. Did you ever watch that?
I did, until you literally start to get lost as a viewer.
Yeah.
But the when it was a straightforward show, I was really enjoying it. I never did finish the last, I don't know how many seasons after I quit. I don't want to say where I stopped.
The end? Did you ever
No.
Oh, bro. See, it's one of those love-hate things, man. It's like Eraserhead kind of, where people will go, either they really like the end. I mean, I cried. I mean, I'm not gonna lie about that. I totally cried, man. I was like, this is unbelievable.
So you watched all of them?
Oh yeah, I watched the entire thing.
I had stopped watching soon after they found the underground thing, and then they started hanging out in there a little bit. Then I stopped watching.
Yeah. Well, and it does get weird with that, like you're like, where's this going exactly? And to be honest, like even knowing the end and what happened in the end, it does still kind of not make a whole bunch of sense in my opinion. Like that whole spin on it. What was going on with this? Why did they take it down that path? I'd be interested now, as I'm going through it again, this time with my kids, that I would really enjoy actually learning more about it and watching interviews and reading analysis of it and things like that. Because I never did. I was just, again, a passive receptor of, of media back then, and far more critical now, and enjoying watching what I'm watching more. I feel like I'm watching, on the one hand, there's part of me that goes, man, I'm watching a lot more than I've ever watched, because I'm watching a lot of movies right now and stuff.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I feel as if I may not be watching more, but it's more intentional. And that when I'm watching, it may give the feeling that I'm watching more, because I'll watch a movie 2 times through. That's my mode of operation, is to watch it 2 times or more. But with Lost, I'm excited to see kind of where it'll go this time, and the way that I view it now. And as it goes through, and as I begin to process it more critically, and even looking it up as I go, because it's a TV show, so it's not like I'm going to wait until it's over and then just read a bunch of critical analyses of it. And so it'll be a lot of fun. But that's what I've been doing. So I've been watching some movies. And one more thing that I got to say, man, because you brought it up and it pumped me up, dude. Actually, you got me on this thing. You've actually kind of inspired me to go down a bunch of roads with all this stuff. But one of them was when looking up scary movies or thrillers or things like that, I found that with a free 30-day trial with Shudder, that you would be able to watch a whole bunch of these movies. And so I got on there, man, and I was so excited about it, and I brought it up and I figured you knew what it was, but I brought it up like, have you ever heard of Shudder before? And you're like, bro, come on, who are you talking to? And so, but it was cool because, I even got to watch a couple episodes of Cursed Films, which is something you brought up on one of the shows. I forget what show you brought it up.
Me and Josh Mallerman were talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you and Mallerman. And so I watched the episode to do with The Omen, and I watched the episode to do with The Exorcist. But when you brought it up with me too, and we talked about it, you brought up Killer Sofa too. And one of the people on Killer Sofa, the person who has the black magic, the black magician, has a website. It's really esoteric occult thing. And dude, yes, you're totally right. It's right out of there. So, but it was cool to see. And yeah, so that's what I've been watching. What have you been watching, man? Are you still on Call Saul?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We just started the 4th season of that, enjoying it. But recently I went down this rabbit hole dealing with something that has always really excited me big time and scared me. I know you don't remember this, but there was this whole Amityville horror phenomenon that was going on because it was brand new. The book had come out. The Lutz family had, proclaimed that their house was haunted, and this book written by Jay Anson had come out, and it's supposed to be based on not based on a true story. It was a true story. And then the movie came out. But during that time, the George and Kathy Lutz, who lived at the house with their kids for 28 days only, and then they had to bail because they were scared to live there anymore because of all the haunting shenanigans that were going on. But during that time in the late 70s, early 80s, this couple were everywhere. They were on talk shows. They were really like in the public eye. And it was kind of like, I know you remember when the Blair Witch Project came out and what that was like. And it was like, they marketed it so geniusly. I mean, they had that documentary called Curse of the Blair Witch, which made the Blair Witch Project looked authentically real. And though it wasn't technically the first found footage movie, it was definitely the one that it could almost pass for the first one. Most people had never seen anything like that before.
I thought that it was found footage.
Right.
I mean, the very first time I ever watched it. Yeah.
And it was a huge phenomenon, man. It was scaring the crap out of people. People were talking about it. They were trying to figure out if it was real or not. And so that's kind of how the Amityville thing was going, but on a much larger scale. And I remember talking to a lot of my friends about ghosts and how I just wanted to see a ghost so bad. And then, of course, a couple years later, after Amityville Horror, Poltergeist came out, which is one of the best haunted house movies ever. Some of the effects don't hold up quite as well, but it's a great movie. And it's definitely got some creepy scenes in it. But the whole Amityville horror thing, I try to explain to people who weren't there. And it's just one of those kind of like creepy childhood memories that fills me with nostalgia. And I just remember feeling that scary excitement. It's like, I want to believe this, but I'm scared to believe it too. But I really want to see a ghost, but I don't because that's way too scary.
Yeah.
And so recently I kind of revisited some of that stuff. And I don't know if you know anything about the Amityville horror at all, but prior to
the book, it's the only, I think I even mentioned that on one of the episodes. It's the only horror book that I ever owned, and I never read it. I don't know if I was scared to read it. Maybe I didn't know entirely what it was about. And I'm like, oh, it says it's scary or something, but I recently found that I still have it. And so I was kind of excited actually to discover that I have it in my house. I'm like, oh, look at this.
It's a good book. And, it's been a long time since I've read it. I don't know how it holds up as far as like, since I started writing, I see things a little bit differently. So I don't know if it would hold up for me personally, but I remember enjoying it and it being legitimately scary when I read it. But anyway, the history of that house, there were murders that took place there. I mean, a dude killed his entire family, like 5-6 people in there. But in just surrounding that, it was so weird because everybody was killed in the middle of the night, like 3:00 in the morning with a shotgun. Everybody was in bed. Different floors of the house. Nobody woke up. This dude's blasting a shotgun, killing them one by one, and they all died on their stomachs asleep. There was no sign of any kind of struggle or anything like that. And there's some other really weird stuff that's involved with that whole thing. So even if you take out the whole George and Kathy Lutz thing, the DeFeo story and what happened there is strange in and of itself. But I watched a documentary, and I can't remember what it was called. I think there's a couple different Amityville horror documentaries, but I watched that, and I just started watching like little interviews with like George Lutz, and George and Kathy are now, they passed away. The kids are alive, and they're out of the spotlight, except for one of the children. His name is Daniel. And he has a couple years ago, I saw a documentary about him called My Amityville Horror. And it was basically his side of telling the story and telling the story about his dad, who was his stepdad, actually, and how abusive he was and how he was into a big time into TM, you know, the meditation stuff and the occult. And that he was, I can't remember if he was physically abusive or just emotionally, but he was a kind of a strange dude. But I mean, this kid claim, I don't know how old this kid is now. He's in his 40s, I believe. But he is claiming that, you know, stuff really happened there. And also in the documentary, you can clearly see that he suffers from some mental trauma. I mean, he's not, I can't remember if they give him a diagnosis, but he's not right. So I just find the whole thing extremely fascinating still to this day. And it's one of these things, I mean, later on, it was found out that this was a hoax, but then there are people who refute that and say, no, it wasn't a hoax. So it's one of these things where it's like, kind of like, I want to believe, you know, yeah. I love the idea that this thing that scared me so much when I was a kid
is real,
you know, and then finding out if it's hoax, it's like finding out Santa isn't real when you're a little kid.
And dude, that totally sucked when I found that out. I remember.
So do I. And I was bummed.
Yeah. I was totally bummed, dude. I found out, man, we had these stairs, and I kind of like came down the stairs, and we had the railing, you know, nice little rails and stuff, real pretty farmhouse. And I'm peeking down there because I hear this noise. And oh yeah, man, I saw Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus putting that bike with the training wheels by the Christmas tree, and I'm like, that looks like my dad. I was totally depressed.
It wasn't like a single incident or anything, but I remember kind of sitting there and doing the math and figuring it out on my own and just having this epiphany and just being like, oh man. I was like, we don't have a chimney. Our house is heated by electric. And it just, things weren't adding up for me. And I was like, and he does this in one night through the whole world. And I was like, it's not real.
And he'd have diabetic seizures so badly with all that sugar and stuff that, I mean, he would just really struggle. He would really have a tough time.
Unless he wasn't getting high on his own supply.
Right. Dude, and you know what made it worse, man, that year when I found out, and I'm really hoping, you know, I can't imagine us having very many young people or very many people watching this who are older who still believe in Santa, but I'm hoping we're not bumming too many people out and they're just like, dude, no, it's real. But the thing is, dude, that year when I found out, I remember what made it even worse was that the bike that I got that year, it was this really cool red bike, dude, and it had the tassels and stuff, man. It was super dope, like sparkly, kind of candy apple red, you know, with a sparkle to it.
Did you get the ching 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 ching?
No, I didn't have that, man. Didn't have that. But dude, what was so terrible was not only that I totally busted him and I realized, but it was like, it said not only that it was from Santa, but that it was from Ronald Reagan. And I think that it's because of the tax cuts. I think, I think that my dad, I'm serious, bro. I think that my dad was,
dude, that's hyper Republican.
I love my dad. I'm a conservative guy, right? And people who watch this, you know, I've mentioned that I'm a Catholic, and they can probably gather some of that from this. But I remember telling, you know, the way I phrased it before, I said, you know, we had a Trinity in our house. You know, we had Jesus, Ronald Reagan, and Rush Limbaugh, and that was kind of the Trinity of our home. So that's how I was raised, man. But a very conservative dad. He loved the Gipper. And I think that was one of those, if I remember right, man, that was the year. And it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if it was even for Ronald Reagan. So I was like doubly upset, but that's the bike that I learned to ride my bike on without the need of help from my parents anymore, which is kind of an interesting thing, symbolically a little bit, that I'm freed from this childlike fantasy, and I'm breaking loose, and I'm doing stuff on my own for the first time. And I'm on the wheels. Look, I'm by myself. And it just seemed almost poetic, right? But you brought up the Blair Witch Project, dude. And we actually talked a little bit about this during the week because I told you that Blair Witch is one of those movies that there was part of me that wondered about it, was this real? But that was before the internet, really. I mean, you'd have to go to like a library or something. And so it was kind of a hard thing to find out unless you read magazines or whatever that might possibly leak information like that. But I was unaware of it at the time. And we were really pumped up about it. And I haven't told too many people this, but I've always had a thing where I've wanted to go, for example, I've wanted to go to ghost hunting. I even had a challenge years ago on my radio show saying, look, if people, I'd love to go out. All I need is a notebook and a pen, a pen and pad of paper or whatever. And as long as I'm with people and we're going through a haunted place, I'd love to. And there was one opportunity that somebody proposed and said that they would be willing to have me go out there with them. But then the place ended up being condemned and something happened and you weren't able to go. So they weren't even able to go. But I would still to this day, dude, I would love to actually do that because to me, it's a thrill. And there's part of me, that I almost wish this stuff was real. I don't buy it. I've watched so many of these shows and I'm like, dude, I've seen it all, man. But there's one thing, man. There's one story. And I'll just say this real fast. It was right after we watched the Blair Witch Project. So I'm primed, I'm already primed in my mind that I'm spooked. It's scary. It's nighttime. We're all scared and pretty high. But one of the people in the room told this story about this little kid that, there's like a little girl and she was in this kind of back weird street and got hit by a truck, and after she got hit by a truck, there was this weird stuff happening, like the organ where she was learning the church organ and the house. And so, I mean, some of it sounded kind of fantastical, you know what I mean? And a little bit like Pet Sematary, maybe. I'm like, what's up with this? But they said that it was in town. So we went to this house, dude. You go down this road and it's a T section, right? So you're on this kind of weird road out in the middle of nowhere. And then it's a T section and it's a dead end on both sides. So there's no outlet. I mean, there's only one way in and one way out. And we had to park in this parking lot that you pull through. And when you pull into the parking lot, it's got those kind of pillars on both sides. It makes it so that you can really only have one car go in and out. And it's kind of a weird deal. So we go into this and we park and we get out, we walk down the road and we get to the T section. And they said, well, it's up on this hill, this house. So we go walk in and we get to the driveway and it's like, it was raining that whole night. It was sprinkling when we went. It wasn't a downpour or anything, but sprinkling. So it was super wet. And there was this massive tree over the driveway. And so we're like, well, glad we didn't try to bring the car up. There's no way we could have gotten up there. So we're all walking up this hill and we get about halfway up this hill. It's all dark, man. So, I mean, you can't even see the house. You don't even know what the house looks like. You get up about halfway up this hill and all of a sudden, dude, I'm talking it's like super quick. The whole place is lit up, man, like major time lit up. And there's a truck, dude, and there's a fire up there. It's a massive bonfire, like it's just sudden. And as soon as that happened, as soon as I noticed it, man, it sounded like there was a voice right in my ear that said, what are you kids doing here? And I'm like, what? And I went booking, dude. I was freaking out. And we're all like, what? And we're running down this T-section road, man. And we're all out of breath and we're like panting and keeled over. And they're like, dude, did you hear that? It felt like somebody was whispering in my ear. I said, that's what I felt like. And we're all, hyping it up like this is crazy. And then the girl who was the last one down the hill, she's like, run. And we turn around and there is a truck, dude, with these headlights coming right at us. We're like, oh no. So we're booking as fast as we can. Like I've never run so fast in my life. And we get to the car, get in, and we go the wrong way. We go to this direction. It's kind of this little back road, like a utility road or whatever. But there's nobody out there. It's all overgrown. The place is not being used for anything. It's an empty parking lot at this point. And so we're like, oh no, there's no way out. You got to back up and get back out of here. Oh no. So we're peeking out the back window and we see that truck go by. And we're like, oh, good. Okay. So we get out and we go up to that, to the exit, and that truck, dude, comes right back. And like I said, it's got those two pillars at the entrance, and it goes right in between those two pillars and just sits there with its lights on at us, dude. And we're looking at this thing like, we can't get out. There's no way. That's the only way out of this. And so all of a sudden that truck slowly pulls up, man, real slow by the driver's side, rolls the window down. It's this dude with his long scraggly hair and a flannel, and he's all hunched over looking like an old version of the guy from Trains, Planes, and Automobiles that's spitting his chaw on the ground. The baby came out sideways and stuff. Didn't cry a bit. Well, that guy comes up and he goes, what are you kids doing up there? Same thing, man. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And the girl goes, nothing. And she pedal to the metal, and we go right through the middle of this thing, right through the middle of those two pillars. Bro, dude pops it in reverse, and he goes in reverse through the pillars like it's some Hollywood thing, man. And he flies through, and he's going on the road, and we're like, go, go, go. And we're going as fast as we can. And dude is like booking, and eventually we outrun him. But he was going down the road, chasing us in reverse, dude. Okay. Next day, we're scared. I mean, I'm like so scared. I'm freaking out badly. But we decide the next day during daytime, we're like, dude, we should go back there. And I didn't necessarily want to do that, but we did anyway. And so we get there, and dude, no tire tracks, none. There's no indication that there was a bonfire, none. There's no wood. There's no nothing. It's just a flat area. And it was raining, dude. There's tire tracks where we were, and there was no tire tracks. And there's one way up and down this hill to get up to this house is that driveway that has this massive tree, and there's no tire tracks at all in that. And there's no place. So we're like, dude, what the heck is this? Like, what is this? And I was like, I'm never going back to this place. I'm out. And they wanted to go up and see the house. I'm like, no, dude, we're out of here. So I don't know. On the one hand, I don't believe in that stuff. I've seen all the shows. I think it's silly and tacky that they turn the lights off. On the other hand, I'd love to go and see it. And I have one story, right? And it's weird. And I can't say that it's a ghost for sure. But it was one of those things I'll never forget. And dude, it spooks me to this day. It spooks me even thinking about it.
You grew up by White Gates,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
Did you grow up hearing stories
about White
Gates? Yeah.
For people who don't know this, White Gates is a manor. It's a mansion. And there used to be nuns that lived in there.
It was a nuns convent. Yeah.
Yes, it's a nuns convent. And my friend, Joth Andrews, he's into horror and stuff. He's actually been in a film, more than one maybe. But his mom may still own it. I've stayed many a night in that house. And I've even seen, oh yeah, dude, it's so big. And I think I even have an audio recording of the piano that they had that wasn't tuned, and it was the creepiest sounding piano, man. And somebody was playing, a friend of ours who plays piano was playing this tune, and it's super creepy. I mean, it could be on a soundtrack, but I've been in there. I've actually even seen I've spent probably 10 or 15 days, evenings, all night, spend the night in there. And I've been to where the nuns, where they used to live, and they have their spots. It still kind of has the layout for what it was like when the nuns lived there.
The whole setup of that house is super creepy from the road because you can't see much of it. It's so huge. I don't know what it looks like now, but in the 80s, it was just, you've got this road out in the middle of nowhere, a really dangerous road, because I know at least one person has died on that road because it's speeding through there. And there's kind of like, it's not bumpy, but you're going really fast and you hit kind of like a hill there, and you can end up hitting a tree. And you can miss the house at some point in the 80s, it was abandoned. There was nobody that lived there. I don't know if why, but I feel like I missed out on this part. But some point in the 80s, people were going in there and like partying and stuff. And a friend of mine used to go in there all the time. And he told me some stories about some of the stuff they found in there, which intensified the creepiness. Apparently, and it sounds like an urban legend, but I don't know. But lots of like satanic stuff is in there, like symbols spray painted on the wall, on the floor, pentagrams, even dead animals, particularly cats, could be found in there. And this is my friend said. He said he was in and out of there all the time, and they would go in there and get high and find crap like that, and that people were in there doing their black magic crap or whatever. So one night in I think this is 1990, we went up there with some friends of mine hoping to get in. And by this time, they had their security system, with the stickers on the windows and everything. But we parked on a kind of a different road. I think there's a side road and you go up this giant hill or something. I can't hardly remember. But so we parked there, went up that hill. And at the time, I don't think that they still have this, but this is when they still had the giant statues in the backyard that made it look like a legit haunted house, man.
They have it right now from all over the world, even these weird kind of foreign looking gods, these multiple different religions, gargoyles. They have the whole thing, dude. Yeah.
So we crept around on the property. Nobody lived there. But we weren't going to break any windows or anything. And one friend that was with us got so freaked out. We ended up running back to the car, and I can't remember why. I don't know if we'd heard something or not, but we didn't get back to the car yet. And my friend, who was so freaked out, ended up throwing up before we got to the car because he was so freaked out.
Yeah.
But we ended up bailing. But I always felt like, my friend would tell me about, when it was abandoned and how easy it was to get in back then and stuff. And I was just like, man, that sounds like, because that is one creepy place, man.
Man, last thing I'll tell you, it is totally creepy. It's now very beautiful inside. It's still creepy though, because if you're in that house, it's so big that you could walk around for a very long time with a different part of the house, a different wing of the home, filled with people, and they wouldn't know you're there. Yeah, it's got multiple wings to this house, and so you could be in there. You could have technically somebody could live in that house and probably get away with being there if they were quiet for a long time without being spotted. Yeah, totally freaky, man. I mean, totally a creepy place. But there's a mental back in the day, it was this kind of mental clinic, and they had pretty severe cases of people who were there, and now it's a rehabilitation center. It's actually they swear up and down that they're not Scientology, but they have a huge L. Ron Hubbard painting in the front. So you walk in and you're like, oh yeah, so L. Ron Hubbard, you guys are Scientologists. No, we're not. We swear to God. And you're like, okay, I don't believe you. But that place, in between the time where it was a mental clinic and a rehabilitation center that it is now, in a retreat center, in between that time, there were years where it was just completely run down. Nobody was in there, and it was locked up, but you could find windows that had been broken and stuff like that. And I had gone in there, my girlfriend and I, and we went in there, dude. And that was, that was not cool. That's one of those things, man. Cause you get the vibe from that where you're like, there were crazy stuff going on in here, and you got all the beds and stuff and wheelchairs, and it's dusty and everything. People aren't coming in cleaning up cobwebs and all that. And I said, man, this is spooking me bad. And so we didn't hang out in there too long, but it was kind of a fun thing. And I can't believe I just admitted that on a podcast, but it's true, man. It was, they can come after me, but it's true. I did that. And so, but yeah, man, creepy stuff, dude.
Oh yeah.
For the people, man, who are listening to this as a podcast, when putting this on YouTube, we'll make sure to put pictures of these mansions because of White Gates, because this is a really cool place. It's a historical building. And it's pretty tragic, actually, that the nuns had to leave. In fact, we were there when it happened. We were there. They had a garage sale, And so we bought some of the things at the garage sale when I was a kid, and we didn't live at the time. We didn't live anywhere near that place. And later on, when I was staying there multiple times, my friend lived there and stuff. When during that period of my life, I was in my parents' house. My sister lives there now. It's been in the family for a long time, even going back to my great grandmother, the house that is right across cat a corner from this mansion. It's a very, very beautiful home, private lake, St. Mary's Lake, stuff like that. And so named St. Mary's in part and Marywood Country Club because of the presence of this convent, right? And so that's where I lived. So I lived right across the street from this bad boy. And you're right, man. It was creepy, buddy.
Well, this seems like it's a lengthy conversation about this, but this seems super appropriate to bring up because you're talking about Mary, we're talking about creepy stuff, we're talking about Battle Creek lore. Crying Mary, dude. We have to throw a picture there too. I don't know if you know anything about Crying Mary from
Crying Mary.
Yeah, dude. Oak Hill Cemetery.
No.
Yeah.
I know nothing of this, Chad. In Battle Creek? In Battle Creek?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oak Hill Cemetery, kind of in the post edition section of town. It's an older cemetery, and I think one of the few, if not the only, that still has like a crematorium in it, I think.
Wow.
And yeah, it doesn't smell good either. I don't know if they still use it, but they used to. And there used to be, and this is like in the late 80s, we'd go there at night, in the middle of the night, and you park in River Oaks Apartments, and then you go to the fence because Oak Hill Cemetery is all fenced in. You can't get there in there at night. And there was a huge hole in the fence that someone had, so it was like just this community hole for, troublemakers in the middle of the night to pass through. And you had to lift up the fence a little bit, but, someone had made sure that the future curious folks could get through. And there is a statue in there that is not Mary, but it's called Crying Mary, just by urban legend. And she's this giant monument, bronze statue that at the time was, what's that called? Patina or whatever, she's all like looking green and like off-white. And legend had it that on certain nights, I think it was Sunday night at midnight or whatever, she would cry tears. And there are clearly markings on her face where it looks like she has been crying. And I've read a lot of stuff online about it. As I got older and was able to look it up, because I was actually did like a little article on it recently, so I had to find all this stuff about it. But there's scientific explanation. People have claimed over the years to have actually seen her cry, so it went through like the scientific explanation for that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's actually not even the grave of a woman; it's the grave of a man. And there was also rumors attached to it saying that this is the grave of Mary, and she, which actually isn't Mary at all. It's a Greek goddess. It looks nothing like Mary, but she is a woman with robes on. So
yeah, right.
But she has the like a wreath made out of leaves on her head. She's a Greek goddess, and I can't remember which one, but it's a grave of a man, 1800s, and the lore, the urban legend says that this was sculpted in her likeness, which I guess is partly true, and that she had killed her children. That's where they were buried. But that's not true. Her kids did both die. One was stillborn, I believe, and the other one died from what was the
typhoid?
Yeah, typhoid.
Really? Yeah. That's so sad in a way, though.
Yeah,
she dies, and like it's like I wonder what people will think after we're dead, and it's like, oh, you don't even know, lady.
Yeah,
people are accusing you of being the crazy strangler woman.
But if you go to websites that kind of like go through different states and cities that have like hauntings and stuff, it's super easy to find about Crying Mary. There's even footage on YouTube of the statue. Now instead of that patina look, it looks it's bronzed looking now. I don't know how, if they stripped it, and it doesn't look as cool as it used to. It's still pretty creepy. People
may not know this. We've mentioned it before, but we're both from Battle Creek, Michigan, and Serial City's mentioned Post Edition. You could have said the ghetto, but Post Edition's legit. Okay, it's true. It's pretty rough, dude. It's pretty hit over there.
It smells good though.
It does. It smells good because you got Post. It's Cereal City, Michigan. It's Cereal City, USA.
Mills,
Yeah,
Kellogg's, General Mills, Ralston. Well, right. Ralston isn't right there, but Post.
Yeah. And so you got the smell of cereal, and you got the smell of other stuff, man. That kind of is in the air there. So it smells good, and things like that. But so crazy stuff, man. Especially the lore of Battle Creek is thick, because they've got a lot of stuff to do even with the Native American lore and legends, because the way that we totally ripped Native Americans off of their land. I mean, it's true. It's not. It used to even be on the crest for the city. Was an image, and I keep posting it because I think the city pays Google to kind of remove it maybe, and I keep putting it back up to just for the sake of history, so people can't do a 1984 on us, but to say this is the image that we had, and it's an image of a settler dude with the butt of a rifle coming down at this Native American guy with his hand up in the air like, whoa, no, and he's got a feather right in his hair and stuff, and it's an extremely terrible image, but it's also factual. That's actually how it happened. And the name Battle Creek was kind of a joke, actually, because it was people going around looking, these explorers, and they're checking out the area and everything, and they left kind of the chump back at the camp and said, don't cause any trouble. And these Native Americans came up and we're wondering what's going on. They're being polite and everything. But once they realized, they were even eating food. And once they realized what was happening, and that there were people from, I believe, Detroit, including Colonel John H. Mullet. I thought that was hilarious. So he partly discovered, quote unquote, by a mullet. But the thing is that once they realized, they were very offended by this, like, whoa, this isn't good. And the guy back at the camp, the people back at the camp get in this fight and basically subdue these Native Americans. And by the time Colonel Mullet and the others get back, there's these Native American guys tied up, and he's like, whoa, this is bad. Like, this is not good. So they get back to Detroit, and they were talking about the names. Like, it was possibly going to be Calhoun was one of the names they were thinking, which is now a street.
Which is the name of, it's also the name of our county.
Yeah, Calhoun County. Yeah. And so there was also another name that they were going to do that's a Native American name, and I'm wondering if it's another street name in our town. But then they decided on Battle Creek because people were joking about this battle at the creek, and that's why even the logo for the city was that. And they later on, I think, changed. I think in the 90s or early 2000s, changed it, to be not so terrible. Just, and we have the sanitarium. Some people may remember the show. What was that, man? Wellsville? Was it Welcome to Wellsville or something like that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm so thankful for Dr. Kellogg inventing cornflakes to help all the chronic masturbators.
And the bicycle riding, and you need to do enemas every day, multiple times, because then you can live forever. And it's like, oh my gosh, man. But that's all from our hometown, the birthplace of Seventh-day Adventism. I mean, there's at least the cathedral's there, right? Their tabernacle, their main place, right? And so we have there's a lot of cuckoo crazy going on with Battle Creek.
Jason Newsted from Metallica is from Battle Creek too.
That's true, man. So and there was I thought there was a wrestler too.
Rob Van Dam.
Rob Van Dam. Oh man. So some claims to fame, infamy even. Speaking of fame and infamy, dude, this movie.
Yes.
We
need to let's get into it, man. Right now. Let's do it.
Let's do this.
The Unsupervised Podcast. Who likes a good old spanking?
I felt it. You need to move your lips more.
Your weekly distraction from all of the stress.
You gotta shoot your shot.
I guarantee you these are all white children.
What are you sniffing a panda ass for?
I would smell it. They're so cute.
We're kind of like the Seinfeld of podcasts. Not really about anything, but we're going to make you laugh and hopefully entertain you for a little while.
It's called like a chicken McGangbang. It's like
whoa.
I get tranquilized, but I'm still moving.
It's like a freaking circus. I love it. Thursdays exclusively on Project Entertainment Network.